Welcome to Career Development in Game Dev, presented by us, the officers, and a special guest alumni. So today we're going to be talking about generally the process of finding a job, uh, how to set up your portfolio and resumes. Um, then we're going to tell stories about jobs and alumni from NCSU. And we're going to talk about LinkedIn, which I don't know, you've probably heard about it, and whether you have one or not, we're going to talk about it. And then we're going to get to go over some interview tips and have a general Q&A. And if you guys have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to pop them in the chat and we'll answer them as we go. Okay. So the first section is trying to find work. And that is probably the hardest part of getting a job is trying to find a place to apply for a job. With the industry, there are a lot of different websites that you can look at to find a job. And if we can go ahead and drop this slide deck in the description, and you'll have all the hyperlinks listed. So we have Gama Sutra, which is basically kind of a news. Um, it's a website that has a bunch of news related to the game, and it also has its own job listing section. So you could always go into that and check on it every now and then to see if there's a new posting for your area of expertise. We also have Indeed, the professional workplace, where there'll also be a lot of job postings. We have Glassdoor, which is pretty neat because this one comes with reviews for the job and place that you're going to work at. So in that one, like, you'll have the job posting, and then you can see past employers will post a review about what it was like to work at that job, internship, contract, etc. And it'll help you decide if it's a good place to apply to or not. We also have Work with Indies for more if you're not looking for an internship particularly. This is probably going to be actual work, but it'll at least help you get some project experience most likely. Since trying to go for an indie dev is gonna probably be your best bet into getting a foot in the door outside of, like, if you don't pick up any experience or whatnot before you graduate. And we're talking about other types of projects you can do later. We also have the International Game Developers Association has a job listing board. You got LinkedIn has its own job listing board, which doubles as people will have immediate access to your portfolio and resume. So that one's a pretty good one to set up. And then, of course, here local, we have the Career Development Center at NCSU, which has a lot of resources about how to set yourself up for success career-wise. And honestly, I've taken most of that from the various seminars I've attended and put it into this presentation. So they're handy to go and meet. You can talk with a career counselor and they'll help you get on your path and, like, help develop a plan. And they're very good people. Okay, gonna put the chat over there. Good. So, portfolios. So we have a few portfolios that we're gonna go ahead and we'll talk about. But as we go through them, some important tips for portfolios is that you want to make it a quick read. Like, reduce how many buttons a recruiter is going to have to click to be able to see what you want them to see. Because most likely they're going to spend a couple minutes tops looking at your website because they have to get through hundreds of these things, and they're not going to have the patience to click more here, click over there, here's all my stuff. You just make it visible. Going on to that, you want to show your best first. Ultimately, the timeline is going to be irrelevant in this short bit. It doesn't matter when you made it. It doesn't matter how long it took. It just matters how good it is and how it presents what you want them to know about you. So, like in my case as an artist, I put my best pieces first, and I put the pieces that are the most relevant to what I want to be known as first. And I'll go into that when I display my portfolio. And then the final one is that you want to have quality over quantity. And this is a common term of, you want to have having 3 really good projects and experiences is going to be better than 10 really mediocre things, because the 10 mediocre things is going to bring up more questions than it's going to bring answers to the table about how good of a candidate you're going to be. So let's go into, let's see, get out of this. Oh no, navigation is a problem. Okay, here we go. Let's gonna go to Will's first. Okay, Will, you can, I guess, talk through your portfolio if you like, and then I will drive.
Oh, sure. I'd say mine's probably pretty middle of the road, and I haven't had like a ton of feedback on it. It's kind of new, but it was made in Google Sites, and I will say it was really easy. Um, so it was really easy, and it's good for simple portfolios. Like I'm a programmer, not a designer, and I just kind of wanted to get some games on a page to show off. And so that was great for me. Um, so you can see I just kind of have a little about me section and then ways to get in touch. And then I just go right into the projects. I show like ways to show off the projects, whether that's like a trailer or like a slideshow of images. And then, and then talking about the project, what it is, and then like what I learned and what I did. Um, just trying to make the most relevant information right at the front. I think just trying to keep it simple is great for Google Sites. It does have a lot of limitations though, I will say. Like if you try and break the structure, the automatic structure that Google Sites gives you, it does not really play nice. So that's a concern. If you want to get really creative with your portfolio, it's limited in that way. But if you're like me and you're just trying to get some projects onto a page, Google Sites it's great. I was able to get it done in a few days.
And then the resume ready and downloadable, or at least being able to look down here is a very nice touch. It's out in the open. It's a quick read too.
If I can make one comment about resumes, the Career Development Center is excellent. They'll go in and they'll review your resume and they'll mark it up and they'll tell you exactly how to format it and how to what things are, oh, this looks good on your resume, this doesn't look good. And I've done that a bunch of times with the Career Development Center and the co-op office. So they're excellent.
Can I make a comment about resumes?
Yes.
Not to just something that I learned maybe freshman year is you don't actually have to put your full address on your resume, especially if it's just on the web like this, because now everyone knows
you
where
don't
you
want
live.
to do that. That's true.
Might be changing.
You only need to put
that
your
is
city.
True.
You only need to put your city, because so when you apply to a company, they only care where you live because they need to know whether or not they need to relocate you, and that's why you just put city. If not, you give them their address when you actually fill out a formal application. So yeah.
That is a good point. And I have it on my resume too.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't put your address and your phone number blatantly on the internet. It's actually a really bad idea. Okay. The next one is Joseph.
Yeah, so what Will just said about don't try to break the structure of Google Sites, I went ahead and I tried to break the structure of Google Sites. I got really creative with it, and for better or for worse, I would say it's a little complex, but I believe that it's pretty easy to navigate. On the front page, I have a section about who am I. With some of the portfolios that I looked at in the past from our previous alumni, like Dana and Josh, and then they had sections talking about who they are and their favorite games and stuff. And I always thought that was a really cool way to humanize them. It makes someone not just a face in the crowd, as well as it also allows you to mention a couple key points about yourself. So for me, I've done a lot of work with NC State facilities. So working on projects through undergraduate research and the libraries, that's a pretty cool thing that I feel is important for people who are going to hire me to know. Working with you guys and helping you guys in VGDC, I feel like that's a pretty big part of my personality and what I've done. And so putting that all on the front page is an easy way to show that to employers. Yeah, if you want to check out the featured projects, and that will probably be a good way to show that. I'm not sure how I feel about this, having the featured projects on a different page that you have to press a button to access. It's something that I go back and forth about a lot. But like on this page, you can see like the projects that I say are the best. So despite the fact that I have, I think, 15 things in my project history page, I have a 4 on the featured projects, and those are like the complete things that I've done. So Vroom Vroom Taco, Clone Wars, which I would say is probably my biggest project so far. And then working with VGDC, I have like all of these workshops as like one thing, because I feel like the learning experience and the being able to show that I communicate with others pretty well, I would say, is a big thing that I want to highlight. Whether or not employers really like that and whether that's a good idea, to be determined. We'll see if I get a job, but I feel it's a pretty big thing for me to put up there.
Yep, we got.
Yeah, and then the rest of the page is just like have extra information for anyone. I have my resume up there. I've always been a fan of like throwing in some color into resumes. Everyone does like the black and white resume. I like making things look pretty. I like making things look cool, memorable. So I kind of fill up the space on my resume, throw in some color.
Yeah, you're allowed to throw in cover on resumes, but it's like you keep it to like a minimal. It's like minimalistic color is the objective thing, but you can do that. And then
yeah, nothing too crazy.
Yeah,
and then the project. This one specifically for anyone who's just like really curious. I think honestly, it's like for you guys and future people who join the club is to say, hey, if I do get a job within the next year, which is kind of the goal, this is all the stuff that I've done beforehand, which led to me getting to where I am now. And so it's just a timeline of literally everything I've worked on. This isn't for the employers because they're not going to look through my entire timeline. It's for anyone who's interested in knowing what I've done beyond that.
Very neat, Joseph. Thank you.
Thank you.
HitCone's where it all started.
Oh my God, I love HitCone. Most important project in my portfolio.
It is.
Oh, and mentioning that you've shipped games. So like you can notice there's things that say available on itch.io and on like the Clone Wars one, available on Google Play. If you click that, that's a button, and that will bring you to where the game is actually shipped. And that is an important thing for employers because they want to see projects that are complete and that are available for other people to see, because that's kind of their whole thing. They're making projects that are complete and available for people to play. So it's good to have evidence that you've done that.
That's true. Okay. So this is my portfolio, and mine's going to be different because mine's an art portfolio. So my portfolio, I've structured it to basically land on my portfolio. And so you see my most important works right away. You know, I threw a little bit of personality in with the cats back there, but for the most part, you know, my art is going to sell itself for me. So I try to just display it in a manner that is going to be easy to scroll through. And then I incorporated little buttons here just to try to divide my work up further. And then you'll notice I didn't incorporate my 3D or my character into that main page because that's not what I want to focus on particularly. The front page was all environments and creatures because that's what I want to improve upon. But I also have this on my portfolio in a separate tab, one, so that I can link to it when I do apply to positions that deal more with character or 3D positions, and then also to show that I can do that and then I'm developing those skills. So it's just various 3D works that I have, and I flesh them out as we go. But you want to try to have everything load like as quick as possible, and I probably need to downgrade a few of these resolutions for the most part, but it needs to be laid out in an easy manner. And now my work portfolio is still a work in progress, particularly in the point of trying to, whenever you like navigate the site is what I'm going to talk about. So because I had a portfolio review earlier with my like a career person in my college, and like so on here, like you'll click on it and then you'll get like a big image, but if you click on this one, for instance, it takes you to a different page. So like that's fine because having more information about big projects is totally okay. but you want to be consistent about how you navigate. So for me, if I have a challenge of where I have process on some pieces more than others, and process is always good. Employers, especially for art, the pretty pictures is great, but they want to see how you went through developing your work, and they want to see your thought process and how you go about creating the thing you do, because that ultimately determines, you know, how well you might be able to work in a team, or, you know, use concept art or translate your skills to working with other people, and just really how you go about doing things. So process is important, and so it's good to include when you do have it. But if you don't have it, that's okay too, because I don't have a process for everything I work on. So trying to have the navigation be clean is important. So I'll probably add in like a little indicator on this preview that'll be like, click here for process or something. I still have to work on that. But yeah, that way it differentiates, because by the time an employer will like click through a couple images, and so they say they click on these two, and these three don't have processes so far, so they won't know to click on this one to find a whole story. But yeah, I use Wix for my site. I just have a little about me over here, and then also my contacts, and I have a downloadable resume on this side. But yeah, I use Wix for mine. I just find it, I really, for the most part, I was told about Wix like through various ads, and I just find it easy to work with. I haven't tried Google Slides for the most part. It's really what I've stuck to, but I like the gallery aspect of it, and I find that easy to use for my purposes. So it's my chosen one. I've also done a game section, but it needs to be a little bit cleared up. So I like Joseph's game section in comparison to mine, in terms of how he lays out like his specific icon. So his is a very good example of how to lay out what projects you've worked on, and showcasing the ones that are most important at the top for him. But yes, okay. And then, hello, Alberto, I see your website.
I do want to say something that I don't think we mentioned yet. Videos. One of the best ways to show what you're doing, especially if you're a programmer who makes game mechanics, is videos, because then you can see how the game actually runs. And they shouldn't be long, because a hiring person is not going to watch them for super long. But showing off how it all works, as well as like a sizzle reel is what I called mine. Showing a bunch of different things that you've done in a short amount of time, kind of shows how, yeah, it's on like the homepage. It's a quick glance at all the stuff that you've done, and it's very helpful, like, from what I've heard.
Yeah, his is actually going on the sizzle wheel. Is that I've seen a different post too. I know you talk over your work in this one, do you?
No, this is just music and a collection
Oh,
of
you
all the
don't?
stuff that I do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I muted it, so that's why. But yeah, I've seen works where somebody will go through their portfolio, and they'll actually also do a very short demo of talking through projects, which is very also applicable. You can do that. Basically, portfolios and resumes and everything is sadly very subjective, and everybody's going to have their own personality to doing it. So like there's general kind of rules that you should follow, but the rest is really up to you of how you want to present it.
They're a reflection of yourself, so let yourself shine in them.
Yeah. And if you can't do videos, also GIFs I've heard are pretty good to do. Just add a GIF, because then you force somebody to basically watch a video, and you remove the extra click of having to play the video. So if you really need to do a video, do a video. But if you just want to have like it showing that it's working, just do a GIF, and it's easy. Okay, Alberto.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw mine on there because it's not a gaming portfolio. It's a engineering portfolio, I guess you could call it. But yeah, just using Google Sites, and you just quickly scroll down, and the collages of images just automatically start playing. Oh, and also I want to mention that make sure whatever site you use is compatible, or it looks good on a cell phone, because the the recruiter, or like if you see them at like a career fair, then you want to show your portfolio at a career fair, you're going to be showing them on their on your phone. So make sure your site still looks good on the phone. And so for me, in my case, it's very vertically centered. So like if you see this on a phone, all the images are going to be like in the center of the screen. So it still looks okay on a phone. But yeah, pretty
Does
simple.
I
Google
could bounce.
Slides?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna ask, does Google Slides have an option when you're editing it to like look at it at how it would look like on a phone?
Yeah, there's a preview
Okay.
button for Google. Yeah, there is.
Okay. Wix does that too, so I was curious. Anyway, Will.
Yeah, I was gonna say if I could bounce off of that, just kind of adding on, it is super important to get mobile design, and it's usually easier to scale up a mobile design than to scale down a desktop design. So if you're designing a website and you want it to look good on both mobile and desktop, starting with the mobile design makes it way easier to do both well.
Okay, cool. And then one final portfolio is we have Jackson, but I do not believe he's here, so we're just gonna review his portfolio.
Yeah, I threw this one in here because he said, "Oh Lord, where did he make it?"
What did he make it? I don't recognize
Oh,
his.
he doesn't know what web service he used to make it. This is stuff that it features things that he was doing under Derek Ham, which we'll talk about later. That's in the PowerPoint as well. It has all of his VGDC games. It has his games that he's been doing through the College of Design. And I think it's a pretty cool. I mean, it was definitely good enough at the time to get him his job that he currently has. So that's always a great thing. I don't know. Can you click those?
Yes.
Yeah. And so
If it looks clickable, make sure it's clickable, and make sure somebody knows it's not clickable. It's not supposed to be clickable.
Yeah, so this is a project that he worked on for the school that he was hired for. And so this, I think the way Jackson is a designer, by the way. I feel like that's a very important information. So he is always looking for design jobs. He's not looking for programming or art. So he wants to showcase how he designs games and how he makes mechanics, not necessarily how he can program. I think on this one though, he was like slightly different. So yeah, this one's a little weird.
So let's go.
Yeah, let's go with like Life World, because Life World is Harlow's. Yeah.
Harlow's.
Harlow's is a game that
Pointing
Jackson and a large section of the club worked on about a year ago, 2 years ago. And Jackson was the main creative director for this game. And so I think if you scroll down, he talks a lot about what goes into like the design of the game. Yeah. And talking about like how he went about making everything. And so when it comes to being a designer, it's important to like talk about what you've designed, how you designed it. And from what I've heard, I think also a lot of like concept art, not concept art, but like concept images of this is how I went about designing things is also a good idea. I don't know if Jackson does that on his portfolio, but from what I've heard, that's a good idea to include.
Yeah, I think I know he uses a lot more wording than at least in my portfolio. And I think we had a discussion once where it's like having design portfolio is difficult because you don't really have a lot of tangible things to show until you have a product. Mm-hmm. So talking about what you do, and even like having these types of GIFs and tech demos are going to be really important as a designer. Like his tech demo of the Axto would be a good one because it's a small self-contained project, but it shows his design basically and what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So overall, you put.
Oh, you go.
Oh no, it's fine. I was just saying overall, your portfolio is it's gonna tailor to what you want to tell recruiters about yourself, whether it's an artist or that you do design or that you program, and then this is what you did. But whether it's more wordy or visual, it's just going to depend on you and what your work encompasses. Or musical too. You know, music's got to be able to be accessible is also an option, especially for sound design or having clips of how sound design is worked breaks in a scene is also important. I've seen that in audio reels. Oh, excuse me. Okay, cool. So moving on from portfolios, I'll have to go through the slide again. We're going to talk about resumes and cover letters because both are equally important. And you might think cover letters are dead, but they're not. Down here, I have links to videos from the Career Development Center about how to structure resumes and cover letters. So they're very good to watch and take notes on. I'll disclose I haven't personally watched either of them, but I've attended seminars with the creator of these videos, so I can only infer that they'll probably contain the same information. There's other similar videos on her YouTube channel. I just try to link related videos. So resumes, just like portfolios, are ultimately subjective, and they're just going to be a reflection of you. So you want to do your best to upsell the positive aspects of yourself and downplay the negatives. And that's really key because you don't want to tell yourself no. Like, even if a job, it may seem out of your league, just go ahead and apply for it. Like, just don't let them, an employer, tell you no. Like, no, you can't have this job yet. You're not ready for it. That's fine. Don't tell yourself no and shut this door on you. You know, that's the important part of resume writing and just job hunting, is just go cast your line out and take every type of bite that you get, and then you can judge it afterwards. But yeah, so when writing a resume, you want to keep it on one page. And this is going to be tricky depending on how much you're trying to fit on a resume. If you have to go over a page, I've been told that you want to go to at least a page and a half. Like, don't do a page in a corner. Don't do like a page in a few sentences. It's unprofessional. So you want to keep it all on a page, find a way to structure it so it's on a page, or add that full second half of a page if you really need it. But for the most part, you want to just include what's super important for the job. And that means you're going to have to tailor your resume most likely for the job. And this is something I've been told. And that kind of sucks to hear, that, you're going to have to tailor your resume to each type of job. But if each job is different, so in my case, I have a 3D art job, and then I've applied to a QA job position. I'm applying to this 2-day position. I have different projects or relevant projects to put on my resume for each of them. So one blanket resume project section isn't going to cover it. So I have to make specific sections for each job just so I can promote myself in the best light possible. And that, I think, is going to have to happen for a while until you can really specialize, and getting jobs becomes easier, in my opinion. If anyone has anything to say, feel free to stop me. But that's the general gist of like resume writing, is that put your best on there, make it relevant to the position. Usually taking keywords from the job posting is pretty good, in case they use like what I've heard is a scanner. Like, they might just scan your resume looking for those specific keywords. So it's always good to just kind of put them in, especially if they're applicable to you. And that's a pretty good start. And then have somebody read it. Read it for grammatical, read it for like active verb language instead of passive language. I can't go much in depth on that right now because I don't have a physical example, but it is a thing of where you write yourself, as in like you took an active stance of I did this. Like, it's hard to explain, but you want to use active vocabulary instead of making it sound super passive. Like, you want to make yourself sound like the best person possible. And then, oh yeah, and that's like an example of how you can like set up a header for your resume. So you can put your job title, so that's the project, and then the company, right on with a / after it, and at least it condenses it to one line, so it helps save some space. But cover letters are also important, and they're probably really intimidating and a pain to write, and they kind of are, but they're also really good. It gives you it's kind of like writing a very small essay about yourself and why you would be really good for the job. So you start by introducing yourself and what you would offer for the position, and then you can go in a talk about like one or two experiences or skills that would be relevant to the position that you're applying for, and like expanding upon the stories and projects that you're trying to sell. And then you can wrap up like why you're interested and or what you can do to what you can bring that would be beneficial to the team and why it would be a good fit is usually a good way. There's just more opportunity to sell yourself, and it's a really good bonus to do and just get in the habit of doing because they're not always required. But the person who's going to write the cover letter, spend that extra time, is probably going to look a little bit more valuable than the people who didn't write the cover letter and look like they cared a little bit more. So it's kind of important. They should also tailor to the job, and your font, they should match your resume in terms of like font style and size. They're like a pair, and like the cover letter is leading into the resume, so you want them to look fairly similar in terms of style. And again, you're just telling a story about yourself. You want to make yourself sound interesting and human. This is where you get to be human. The resume is pretty much the robotic, like this is what I am, this is what I've done, this is my experience, yada yada yada, and then this is your story, and this is the human part of you, who you are in the cover letter. And you want to proofread those also. Have somebody else read them to you. As good as a reader you are, you probably read over it twice and read a word that actually doesn't exist. And it's just good to have somebody else read it and get a second opinion.
I do want to add on to like the whole humanizing you thing. I found that cover letters are a great place to include puns. And I kind of want Ben's opinion on this because I sent him my cover letter that I sent to Amanji. Ben, what'd you think of my Amanji puns?
I only remember, oh wait, yeah, I only remember the one that you put at the very beginning.
This job opportunity is the golden idol or something.
Yeah, is my golden idol or something
Jesus.
like that.
Oh my god.
I could help your team run towards success.
I mean, I think it really depends. It can be a risk if you don't really know the workplace culture of the place you're applying to. Now, granted, I actually don't know who read your resume.
I think
but
Anna did.
I think if it was Anna, it stuck. Trust me.
But yeah, it's a fun way to make yourself human.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Like what Ben said, take the risk where you can, depending on the culture of like where you're applying. Game studios, I think, will be fairly relaxed, but some of them probably won't be. So it's really up to you. But yeah, have fun with it. Or at least relax a little bit with it. Okay. So moving on with story time from various people who have gotten jobs through some way, shape, or form in VGDC, and we have slides for some people, and some people don't have slides. So, does anyone want to go first?
I'm listed first, and I'm pretty brief, so I can go real quick.
Okay, Mitchell.
Yeah, so I got my job working with VR Plants, which is an initiative run by Colin Keenan, who's the acting director of the VR studio at NC State Libraries. And then he's working with the plant biology department, and they're making like VR plant initiatives to help teach people about plants. And so I got onboarded as a 3D modeler to 3D model plants. And I got that job through Meghan recommending it in the Discord for the club, and I applied for it, which I think the application involved a cover letter and a resume and a portfolio. I didn't even use a website for my portfolio. I just put some images on a Google Doc, but I still tried to follow the whole put your most irrelevant stuff first. So the ones that I had modeled a plant for Harlow's wallpaper / life world, and I had made some other environment models myself on my own time. And so I put those at the top of the thing, and then threw in everything else that I thought would be just a good piece to show off my skills. And I ended up landing the job. So it was really nice. I still work there. I'm working there through the summer. And I even got offered a position at the VR studio proper, so I might be working with Megan there in the fall.
Yay!
Yay.
And with that, I'll talk about my job. So as Mitchell said, I work at the VR studio. I've worked there for it's either 2 or 3 years. I'm not sure at this point. It's been a bit. I got my job, honestly. I got it so freshman year, we had the club in the VR center, and I didn't work there throughout it. I would come to club like a normal person and do things and then leave afterwards. And then we got in the summer of my like the summer in between my freshman and sophomore year, and I can't remember why exactly, but we figured it would be beneficial to have like someone, and I think I was a junior officer by this time, so we figured it'd be beneficial to have someone on the officer board working in the VR lab. So I think either I approached Colin, or like Colin approached us about, I think Colin approached us about having one of us, somebody from the board, working in the VR lab just to make handling club operations better and easier, specifically for Wednesdays. And I was like, okay, I'll take the job. So I got the job, and I've been working in the VR lab since doing that. And so my primary job was I would work specifically on club nights to set up the lab and make sure everybody was great and everything ran smoothly for us, and I'd close up the studio. But then I also did a lot of work with learning about I got to have a lot of hands-on experience with the very different VR technologies that have come out, from like the original Oculus to the PlayStation VR to the Vive to the Oculus Quest to the S to the Magic Leap, which is the AR. I've done a lot of events of setting up VR and AR machines for the public and letting them try things. There was one event where we went to like a country club, I think, and we set up a lot of AR, VR things. And I don't remember what the event was, but there was this lady who got really involved in some, I don't know, spinning game. She like did like a 360 twirl with like a VR headset on, and then like me and Colin and like I think my other boss David were there, were like watching the cord tighten a bit to the laptop, and we're all like, oh my god. um, so interacting with the public in VR is very entertaining. We did an event where we had the Raleigh PD come in, and they played some VR games like Dispatch to learn about like different police stories and have like a conversation. They did I Am a Man, and then like a game called Dispatch, which is kind of the story of like a 911 call and everything. And I Am a Man is created by Dr. Derek Ham, which we mentioned with Jackson and we'll talk about. And that's how I was introduced to him. And he does a lot of VR stuff, helps with a lot of his events, and we do stuff at Hunt, and it's very fun to honestly work at the VR lab. And right now, since we're all remote, we're doing a lot of Twitch things. So that's my job primarily. But it's fun. So we'll have, once I graduate, probably be a position opening up. So if you want to work at the VR lab, I'll put in a word. But it's a good place to work, specifically with the club. It balances out pretty well.
Especially since we're planning to be on campus next semester. So working in the VR lab will actually be relevant to where we are with the club.
Yeah.
All right, I guess I'll talk about the undergraduate research. So if you want to go to the next slide. So I'm a computer science student, and undergraduate research is something that when I first came to state, I was like, oh, this would be cool if there's like game related research. And then I went to one of like the fairs that they have for undergrad research, and there was nothing there about video games. And I was like, well, I don't really care about computer science outside of video games, so this is not for me. And then come a year and a half later, I get employed as undergraduate research, and I'm just wondering, why the heck did I not know that this existed? Because turns out there is a whole world of undergraduate research related to video games that I did not know until the end of my second year here. So I'm gonna first explain some of the instructors that we have in computer science. And I'm sure there's also things for art and design and other majors, but I just know about computer science because that is the world that I exist in. So for computer science, we have 3, I would say, main instructors who teach like the core game classes. Dr. Arnav Jahala, Dr. David Roberts, and Dr. Chris Martins. Jahala teaches interactive game design and games projects, and he switches off games project with Dr. David Roberts, who usually teaches game engines. And then Chris Martins has been teaching game AI for a little while now, as far as I'm aware. And all 3 of these professors have research groups. I personally have worked with Dr. Jahala specifically through interactive game design. So in interactive game design, there's this project at the end of the semester where you have to make a game, and it doesn't have to be a gigantic game. It's pretty low scale requirements. But me, being super extra, decided to make a full-on Unreal Engine project that was like, it was like an adventure RPG kind of game where you switch between characters, and it was honestly pretty darn big. And Jahala was like, oh my gosh, that's really cool. And so that gave me a connection with Jahala, and him being, your project's really cool. And I went, I also do other stuff with BGDC. And then I went and I showed him all of the VR work that I do with you guys, or I did with you guys back then. We're working on Harlow's Wallpaper back then, which was a VR escape room. And Jahala found that super interesting. He was very interested in VR. In fact, he was doing a research project on VR stuff. So after he saw that and he saw what I had done with Unreal, he was like, hey, would you be interested in joining research stuff? And I was like, yeah, that sounds really cool. And if you move to the next slide, we can start talking about research specifically. So undergraduate research, you have 2 options here, and I have done both of them, so I can talk about both of them. You can do it for money, or you can do it for credit. If you do it for money, the way it works, and I actually just asked Jahala about this today, is professors will write research proposals, so that way they can get funding, and so that way they can get students to fund. And these proposals are either for NC State offices. So the College of Engineering has a research fellowship, which was how I did my first research project with Jahala, which was molecular. You can see the app icon in the top right there. I'm going to talk about what I got out of it, because I think it's very important for people to discuss like how much money they can make from this. That fellowship gave me $3,000 for the semester. It was a lump sum that they gave me right at the beginning, and they said, make this thing, you have the semester to do it. And that was the semester we had COVID, so things got turned on their head halfway through. But I went ahead and I made a small mobile app that allows you to scan cards, like playing cards, and it causes molecules to pop up, and you can do things in AR with them. And it was really cool. I learned a lot, and I got money for it. That was funded by NC State. Currently, I'm doing research again with Jahala. I am continuing VR stuff with him, and that one is being funded through an Epic Games mega grant. What Epic Games does is they fund a bunch of Unreal Engine projects throughout the year, and they give them grants for that. Jahala has been doing paperwork for that to try and get his projects approved, and he got it last November. And so he got money to work on this project. And since him and I know each other and he knows that I do VR stuff, he was like, you want to get brought on? And I said, yes. And now I'm being paid $18 an hour, 10 hours a week to do VR stuff with him. And that is, while it's not like amazing projects, like these aren't like the games that I always wanted to make. This is game development. I am working with Unreal. I've been working with Unity, and I'm being paid to do it, which means I can put it on my resume, I can put it on my portfolio, and I can say, I have been hired to do things. And it also led to me getting a job with the libraries, which I'm not even going to discuss because I feel like Mitchell kind of covered that niche where you can get more jobs throughout the university working on game stuff. And you get paid while doing it. Money's really great. I like having stuff in my bank account. It's helpful. We go to college, we're in debt. That's the money side. Also, you can do things and get class credits for them, which is something that they don't advertise, which I think is honestly probably even cooler than the money thing, despite money being really important. there is this class for computer science called CSC 499 Independent Research CSC. This is something that you can sign up for. You need to work with an instructor, from what I understand. You can't just do it. So the takeaway from all of this, make connections with your instructors. The 3 instructors that I posted about earlier, very important people. You'll probably meet Dr. Jahala first, because if you're in the games concentration, you tend to take interactive game design before any of the other classes. Make good projects and talk with them. Or even if you don't make good projects, just talk with them, get to know them, get connections with them, because you can get them to bring you on for the money research projects, or you can get them to sign off on an independent research project. I know, I'm sorry, Jack. Apparently, the interactive game design is not offered next semester. I think what I'll probably do is I'll message Jahala, and I can get back to you guys about what he's doing next semester to figure out what's going on with that. I'll add that to my to-do list. But independent research, 499, you submit a proposal, you get an instructor to be your advisor, and you just work on that project the whole semester, and you update whoever your advisor is, and by the end you have something. And so what this one was for me was a gesture detection system for Unity, because what Oculus did around the time I started this project was they allowed for hand detection with the Oculus headset. And I really wanted to make a system that allows you to make gestures, so like the OK sign, or a thumbs up, or a thumbs down, or Spider-Man flip, which you can kind of see like that. And the system detects it, and it says, hey, you're doing that signal, do something based on that. So that's what I did for that semester. And I did that and molecular at the same time, which caused some issues because NC State was like, no, you can't get credit and money for the same project. And we had to explain to them, no, these are 2 separate projects. I'm just a masochist, it's fine. So yeah, research is really cool. It's really cool, and it's really beneficial, and it lets you do game dev and get rewarded for it. So if you're a senior, unfortunately, it's probably too late for this. But if you're a freshman or a sophomore, or heck, even a junior, you still have time to do this. And you can do it, and hopefully it's a really rewarding experience if this is something you're interested in. But make sure that you connect with your instructors in order to have this opportunity. Yeah, that's it for this slide, I would say. Never too late as well, if you're a graduating senior.
Yeah, but like I want to say though, like you could probably still reach out if you've had them before. Though I would be like, I would probably reach out and maybe like formally a basic connection over LinkedIn, for instance. Like you maybe not really gonna do it for credit or money, but like have a basic connection.
Yeah, it's never too late to make the connections. I was saying more along the lines of it's too late like to do a research. Heck, even then though, Jackson is graduated. He has graduated, but Jahala is looking into bringing him on for a project that the project I'm working on right now. So I guess, no, even as a senior, it's not too late. You can still get brought on for these things.
Jackson's as much of a madman as you.
Jackson's crazy. I love it. Yeah, but yeah, we can go on to the next slide, which I think is about Jackson.
It is Jackson.
Yeah. So Jackson, I didn't make like a whole slide for this. I just kind of copied what he posted because I asked Jackson, and I was like, hey, we're doing this workshop. Is there anything you want to share with people? And he was like, well, I can't attend the workshop, but I can send you my information. I was like, okay. So I'm not going to read through the whole thing here. I'll just kind of give a summary. So what happened with Jackson was he was the president of VGDC the year before I was. And Derek Ham, who does a thing in the College of Design that's like an actual business. Like he's from MIT and he formed a business through the College of Design here, which is really interesting. And he reached out to us, and he worked in the VR. Oh yeah, Jackson did work in the VR lab.
Yeah, there's like a whole other story.
yeah, Jackson's a madman. But Derek Ham reached out to VGDC, and he was like, hey, you guys make some cool things. I want to like just meet more about you and learn about you. And Jackson, as the president, was like, yeah, let's do a meeting. And so I think it was me, Jackson, and Meghan all decided to meet with Derek one day. And we went over to like where he had his, yeah, no, Meghan remembers now. We went to like his area in College of Design, and we got to like hang out with him and see what he works on. And like, this is super cool. Would you like to like come over and like talk to the club about some of the stuff that you're doing? He was like, yeah. So that gave us a connection with Derek. Jackson, on his own time, messaged Derek and wanted to learn more about Derek's projects because Jackson is really into VR. He's really into Unreal. Derek is doing things in VR. He's doing things in Unreal. He's making like peripherals and stuff for it. So Jackson was very curious about it. So he messaged him. And Derek and Jackson have this connection now. When Jackson asked, hey, do you have any positions for a job? Derek was like, yes, I do. And so I believe since last spring, Jackson's been working with Derek on Unreal and Unity VR projects. And Jackson is getting, let me see if he mentions it in here. He actually doesn't mention it in here. Jackson is basically getting a master's degree through this program. Derek kind of like worked with College of Design, and of course Jackson had to like apply for the master's program. He had to have a portfolio and he had to get accepted by the NC State on his own terms. But Derek is helping him essentially pay for that. And he gets to continue his studies here. He gets to continue working on video games, and he gets to just be a game developer for money, which is something that is actually really hard to do. So yeah, there's avenues, and this was all just done because he was part of the club, and someone from the university was like, we want to learn more about the club, which is why I kind of mention a little bit that sticking with the club and being involved in what we do is kind of like a really beneficial way for people to progress further if this is an industry you're interested in being in. Yeah. Does that,
And I
any
also
of the
like
other
the
officers?
part that Jackson.
I was gonna say if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, I was gonna mention. Yeah, I also like what Jackson mentions in that he talks about how the project he started helping with Derek was not in his area of expertise at all. The project was in Unity. He knew Unreal. He didn't know the code. He wasn't an animator, but he was like, it's fine. He took the shot anyway, despite it being outside of his area of interest and the self-defined box, because it was worth it to take it, and it was an interesting growth opportunity. And that's always, you can have how you present yourself, but then don't be afraid to like deviate and expand off of whatever set path that you envision yourself having, because most likely it's not going to go how you envision it anyway. So most opportunities will generally be very good opportunities and help you grow in any way.
Yeah. If I can add to that, whenever I got my job working as a 3D modeler, I was self-taught. I'm still self-taught so far, but if there's one thing that my job did teach me is that I suck at 3D modeling, and I would never have gotten as good as I am now without getting basically that slap in the face of, saying like, okay, and I'm a CSC major too. I never thought I would do art and design for work. I never even considered it, and now it's what I'm looking into minoring in art and design now. So be open to whatever you find. Stuff can change a lot.
All right. So now we're going to go into segue into talking about networking.
Well, before we get there, I think, did we
Yes.
want to do Ben's story?
Oh, did I move that around? Hold on, let me find it.
I mean, yeah, I could do it now, or I could just do it as part of my slide, because I think mine is the next one.
Is it? I'm sorry.
I think the next
Interview
one's like
tips?
interview tips. So
Yeah, that's my slide.
Ben, let's go.
That's Ben's slide.
Let's just go.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Again, so my name's
Sorry.
Ben. I graduated last May. The story of how I got my position was kind of the same thing that Joseph and Jackson both had to say, which is absolutely network, make connections, and collaborate with not only your instructors, but also your peers. When I joined the club back in 2018, we had some more involved alumni back then, and one of them was Josh Good, and he was essentially acting as the programmer lead on LifeWorld, which was just getting on its feet back then. and I spent a semester working alongside Josh, and then Josh ended up getting a position at Amanji. So when it came time for the summer where I applied for their internship, I already had my foot in the door. It's a very, I guess, lucky, right time, right place. Not everyone gets the opportunity to work closely with someone and then have them go on and be your reference. But that was essentially my story. So I got the internship. I worked that full summer and then throughout the 2019-2020 school year. And right out of college, I then graduated up into a associate software engineer, and I've been working there ever since. So yeah, it's absolutely. I've always harked that you will get out of this club what you put into it. So if you are looking to find a career in the game development space, I know it's a tough time right now with everyone being remote, but if you absolutely put in the work, not only coming to all these meetings, working on your projects, making connections, I do believe you can absolutely find your place.
And then we got one more story from Alberto.
That was just the same thing, like getting the job through the libraries. But this time, I forget, someone got an email from the libraries, and it got shared with the club. In terms of like they were looking for a 3D modeler. Yeah.
This most likely went through me, and then also the Greg Museum.
Yeah, exactly, the Greg Museum. So then it was just a help wanted ad basically, and I just sent an email to the person, and like, hey, I'm interested in this. My portfolio of 3D models was an Imager album of just screenshots. But that was good enough, I guess. And so they talked to me, and they're like, yeah. And so that basically it was working on a VR corn maze. I made some low poly assets for that because I was running on the Oculus Go. And that was showcased at the Greg Museum on the opening day of the exhibit for what was it called? It was like
biotechnologies or something, maybe.
Yeah, biotechnologies, genetics and bioengineering in the future, basically, and just like how art can, do what art does and exaggerate like what's possible with that. And the cool thing about the exhibit was that the art was based on real research that NC State was doing. So it was pretty cool. So I guess the example for our VR corn maze is at the end of it, there's like a video of how teosinte, which is the base for corn, like the base gene of corn, how like teosinte became corn, how to say, and so I guess, yeah, that's how it was connected to the research, I guess. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. All right. So all this leads into you gotta network. We gotta understand. You gotta know how to build your network. So reaching out to professors is a good start, but then also to expand and like club members and alumni is a good start. But then you have to have a home base of like where people can connect with you, and then like that network can go out. So this is where LinkedIn comes into place. And I'm sure most of you have heard of it, or you haven't heard of it and haven't considered it yet. But now's a good time to get started on it and build it wherever you are in the game in your academic career. So LinkedIn is basically kind of like Facebook, but like for jobs, but not as like bad as Facebook either. It's literally just like your portfolio on like a networking platform. So whenever you can see a little bit over here. So whenever you're setting it up, the about me section, you kind of want to tell the story that you would in a cover letter, but more generally about you. So what's it like to be you, and how what's it like to work with you? Like, who are you as a person? What do you like to do? Like, what do you bring to the table? Your experiences, etc. You tell like a little bit of a story of how you would pitch yourself. What is your elevator pitch? Basically, imagine stepping into an elevator with a recruiter, and you have the amount of time to from the base floor to maybe like the whatever you're gonna get off, and that's how much you gotta. That's how long you have to pitch yourself. That's what this is. So you can set that up, and then you have to start reaching out to people. I would start with people you know first, like people you've gone to school with or professors you've had. Um, that is a pretty good basis to start on, and then you'll get recommended people the more people you have in your network. Um, so even with people that you know, I mean, at least with professors for the most part, you want to send like a message or customized message to be like, hello, introduce yourself. Like, my name is Megan. I was in your class. I'd love to connect with you over LinkedIn, etc. It's a good way to introduce yourself. And remind them who you are too. If it's been a while since you've been in their class, is pretty handy in that sense. But this is also relevant for if you go to events such as like online GDC, you go to online career development events, online career fairs. This is where it becomes important to send out these customized messages, because you'll have a brief interaction with these people. So you'll be like, hello, my name is Megan. We met at this career fair, or like I saw your talk at GDC online and I was really inspired by it, and I wanted to connect over LinkedIn. And that example is one I've sent out from the GDC talks. I don't remember who it was right off the moment, but there was a speaker who talked about his game and I really liked his art style. So I looked him up on LinkedIn and I was like, hey, I really liked your GDC talk. I hope we can connect. And that's fine. And he accepted the connection. And like, I don't know if anything will ever come out of that connection either, but it helps the band like extend the network, and it lets people look at your portfolio, and people will look at your portfolio if you reach out to them. Like, they'll take a look, and maybe it'll be in their back burner, and maybe one day they'll, like, if you make a good enough impression or you keep in contact, like every now and then you bring up something of interest that reminded you of that person, they'll be like, I know this person, and then maybe they'll reach back to, ask about a job or something. But it's pretty good. One I did recently was that I found an environment artist who in his profile picture had like Epic Mickey on it, and I loved Epic Mickey. So I took a gamble and I was like, hello, I'm an environment artist. I saw that you were an environment artist at Disney. In his experience section, I was like, did you work on Epic Mickey? Because I really like those games. And he responded, he was like, yeah, I did work on those games. And we had a connection. And I asked him some questions about what he did, and he answered my question. And it was a pretty good time. And whether or not this man will ever remember me, I don't know. But he looked at my portfolio, and that's good enough for me at this moment in time. So it's pretty cool. To at least have those things. So it's good to like compliment somebody, like to be like, oh, I like your thing, or we're also an artist, or etc. I've done the same thing to the people who work at Bug Snacks. I was like, I like the environments in Bug Snacks. Can we connect over LinkedIn? It's cool. It's fun to do after a while. But overall, it's kind of like you just build like this like really long spider web of like networks and friendships, and sometimes you can ask them questions, which is important as a growing developer. You can be like, hey, what's important in character development, or what's a day as a game designer at your studio, or like what would be important for me to learn right now. You can start by asking simple questions in that type of regard, like trying to learn from people who obviously have industry experience and that you might like be inspired by. And then it helps a little bit ease the thing of not actively reaching out with like, hello, do you have a job for me? Because if you kind of immediately ask somebody for a job, they might be a little put off by that. But if you ask somebody a question about what they do as a job and their industry, they'll be a little bit more willing to give information. It's kind of like you'd make a small talk if you were to actually go to GDC, but just online. So that's some like LinkedIn 101. Don't be afraid to just kind of reach out to strangers on the internet. And you want to pick and choose your connections, because you'll get a bunch of like recruiters sending messages to you that maybe won't be like related to what you do. So you can filter through that. But for the try to build around what your ultimate goal is. And then The last part is that we have some interview tips, and I think Ben, would like to take that over?
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, these are just a couple quick tips I came up with having gone through a interview at a game studio, specifically a software engineering one. So parts of it are going to be a little more technical, but yeah, these are stuff I learned from my interview and also seeing people from the other side going through the same interview process. So number one, of course, you got to start with your prep and your research. So if you're applying to a game studio and they have made games before, I would definitely recommend playing them, but also be honest if you didn't. So I would not do what I did, which was download Temple Run 2, play it for 15 minutes, and then drive to my interview. But thankfully, I got lucky, and they only asked a bunch of surface level questions. Don't tell my boss any of this. Anyway, so another great thing while you're doing your research is to prepare questions that you have about the studio, such as policies, work-life balance, just trying to get a better feel for what it is to work for that company. So you're not preparing questions, like you're not going to go apply to Blizzard and be like, hey, what's the name of the next WoW expansion? You want to get a little more personal with that. This will both give you a better idea of, do you actually want to work for this company? And it will also show the company that you are actively invested in more than just what's on the surface. You actually want to be a part of their workplace culture, and you've done more than just read the credits of whatever game they had released. And my other tip I have for research is, and this has already been mentioned, but use school resources. When I was preparing for my internship, or my interview, I should say, I did a couple of mock interviews with the CDC. I think there might be a different one on the engineering campus. I can't exactly remember, but mock interviews are certainly excellent. Now, you won't get questions, specific to the Unity engine or really probably anything with game development, but you're going to get more of the personality questions. So you're going to get the ones like, talk about a time where you exemplified leadership or something like that, or you had to solve a problem, very generic questions that I will guarantee you'll at least see, one or two of them in your actual interview. And it's also just a great way to prepare how you handle yourself and how you present yourself during an interview. So can't recommend reaching out to those and using them enough. When you actually get to your interview. So for me, I had my interview was split into two parts. And for what I understand, this is done with a lot of software engineering interviews, but you have your personality side and then you have your technical interview. And my best advice during the personality interview, which you've probably heard before, is be yourself, because it is your best self. And one of the main things that the recruiter is trying to get out of this half of the interview is, are you going to be a good fit into the workplace culture? I have seen people apply to Amanji with incredible resumes that were very much qualified for their job, but they did not have the background or the type of energy that we wanted to add to the workplace. And that's a bigger deal breaker right there sometimes than maybe, not knowing all of your technical skills, because that's stuff you can learn on the job, but it's a lot harder to try and change someone's personality. So be yourself. Like I said before, be honest. You can maybe try and lie on your resume, but I definitely would not try and lie in the middle of an interview. That is a lot harder of a hole to dig out of. Thankfully, I don't speak from experience, but I feel sorry for anyone who has ended up in that position. Lastly, this is the technical interview part. So if you're unfamiliar with what this may look like, this is generally doing either working on a software problem or some sort of design problem on a whiteboard. So the dreaded whiteboard interview that a lot of software developers like to quake in fear at. My most important thing I can say here is, don't stress if you can't find the right answer, because another part to a lot of the interviews, at least is how we do it at Amanji, is you always have a take-home test essentially first. You send in your initial application, you get a little take-home test, you fill that out, and you turn it back in. This is what I got when I applied to Blizzard as well. So I imagine this is done for a number of different positions. But Anyway, so the take-home test basically has already showed that you have some level of technical skill, that you're able to solve the problem. So the technical interview is really just of making sure you didn't just Google all your solutions. It's trying to figure out how you solve problems as a person. And especially if you're applying to an internship, they want to see that you're open to new ideas and criticism, because you're probably going to get told in a lot of code reviews that everything that you've written is wrong and you have to do it all over again. And sometimes that is just software, or really any sort of creative process. There's a lot of collaboration and a lot of peer review that you have to go through. So that's probably one of the most important things that they're looking for in these interviews, is that you're able to work with, that you're not able to only just hold your own ground and use all the expected jargon, but you can collaborate with the interviewer to design some imaginary piece of software. So yeah, those are just a couple quick tips I have for interviews.
All right. Thank you very much, Ben, for the wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
And then with that, that is all the slides we have prepared. So thank you for all of you to listening to our long spiel. And we're happy to go into a Q&A now. If anybody would like any advice on either resume or I don't know, if you have a portfolio, I guess we could be open to looking at them too. And generally, we're here to help you guys tonight. So if you have a question, feel free to unmute or type it in the chat, and we'll go from there. So I'm gonna stop screen sharing. Oh. We don't have any questions, and that's perfectly fine.
Ben,
Everybody's ready to go
I
get a
got
job?
a question for you, Ben.
So
So Temple Run Space, how's it going?
come on, you're gonna make these people think I'm telling you secrets. I haven't told this man anything, okay? My lips are sealed.
I
Love that NDA.
I've been trying to get Ben to reveal his secrets for the better part of what, 2 years now?
I think at
2
last
years.
year's Global Game Jam, you did tell us that it's not Temple Run Dogs.
That is true, I did. I did.
Just do like what Josh does, and he's like, I can neither
So-
confirm nor deny.
So Temple Run Cats is still on the table.
Yeah, it's
Temple Run
cats.
Cats.
What
It's
about
still-
Temple Run
Birds?
Hamsters?
I mean, if
Like
you play,
hamsters.
That would be a good one.
It's
Temple Run
monkey ball.
You
You
office
just
workers.
don't move. You're just in the wheel the whole time. That's Temple Run Hamster.
I can't
So like a
remember
hamster
what.
ball.
I can't remember the story behind Temple Run Dogs, because I think you may have asked that, and I couldn't say anything because I think we were just about to come out with pets in Temple Run 2.
Oh,
Did you actually add
Wait,
pets?
really?
Yeah, pets are in Temple Run 2 now.
Oh, great. Oh, wait, I'll
Mhm.
download that again.
no, I'm telling you, not this past Global Game Jam, but the last one. I'm pretty sure we asked you about Temple Run Dogs, and I think you explicitly said
This
it's
isn't
all right, I'm
happening.
not confirming anything, but I will say it is not Temple Run Dogs.
That may have been the pets update then. I can't remember.
Oh, fuck.
I do remember seeing the some concept arts somewhere in there about a pet.
You
and I
have
was
to
like,
make a Temple Run students, right? Where you're a student running away from debt.
Oh gosh. I don't think we're allowed to yeah, I don't know how much the CEO would be interested in introducing that into the Temple Run lore.
And then the gems or coins or whatever you collect, or those freelance and odd jobs you can find here and there to get some money, and your collected treasure, so to speak, slowly drains, and you also lose when it reaches 0.
Oh jeez.
I do want to respond to some things in the chat. Joseph mentioned having the energy to do passion projects, and Elliot mentioned having the time. Energy and time are the hardest things in life to have, if I'm being entirely honest, especially as a student. School drains the energy from you, and it drains the time from you. So it's like, how the heck am I supposed to do these passion projects to get a job after I get out of school if I don't have the time or energy? The best thing I can say is people. Clone Wars AR is a mobile app that me and Will and Mitchell and Udayan developed over winter break. Now this is winter break. We had all the time in the world because we didn't have school during this time. We were still struggling to get that thing out on time because we just didn't have the energy after school. We were still drained. If it was not for us being together, like just over Discord and talking about it and wanting to get through it, we wouldn't have been able to feed off of each other and they would have never have been done. Passion projects, do not try to do passion projects on your own because in my experience, at least, they don't get done. The beautiful thing about this club is we are a community of people who want to make video games. That is super important because it means that we all want to do the same thing, which means we can get together and do the same thing. So we can actually get together and make these projects and have stuff on our portfolio, even if we are lacking in energy and time, we can kind of feed off of each other for the energy and we can not sleep for the time.
Yeah, working on that project was great. And Joseph is totally right. It's like having like an accountability partner for like going to the gym, right?
Yeah.
Like where you're like, I don't want to go to the gym, but if you've got somebody that's like,
We need to go to the gym today, man.
you're both hold each other accountable, and it's kind of the same idea with working on a project.
Yeah, and it's daunting to get started with these projects. I personally wish I had the time to kind of pitch projects and like do a whole thing. But then I had to do 3 game development projects this semester for like grades and stuff, and I really don't want to do anymore. So, but pitch something and try to, and I think next semester is definitely going to be easier because we're going to be in person. And just from personal experience, being in person and doing game development is the greatest way to do game development.
It's real good.
There is nothing like going ham on Vroom Vroom Taco at 3 a.m. and then falling asleep on a couch. It's fantastic.
Was there a couch?
No, he
There
did it
was
at his
not.
apartment. Remember, like Joseph took it home, and then we were like all communicating over the Slack of like what was going on, and he was like doing 3 a.m. development at his.
Yeah. Those are good
Good
times.
times. Yeah, good times.
Good times.
Good.
Absolutely.
I miss
Also,
game
speaking
jams in
of
person.
don't do passion projects on your own, I can attest to that. I've started so many like program and app projects in Visual Studio. I've worked on them for like a month or 2, and then they've just been sitting there for months or years. And every now and then when I feel like it, I touch on them for like 2 days, and then they sit there for a few more months or years again.
I mean, Ben, I kind of have a question for you regarding that. Projects that are started but not finished or really like fleshed out. How do recruiters look at that? Do you know?
Yeah, I can't say specifically. It's been a while because I remember seeing a talk relevant to that. What was that? Yeah, that would have been ECGC.
Mm-hmm.
I think if anything, a good way to turn it on its head is if maybe you got started on a project just because you were really interested in seeing if you could implement some like specific like gameplay system or something like that. Like let's say for some reason you started a whole game just because you wanted to see if you can make a character do a double jump. Okay. If you don't feel like carrying out the full game, you can easily just tear that apart and turn it into a tech demo. You can make a quick 20-30 second GIF of the actual game playing. Maybe you could even give a little sample of code or something like that. There are a lot of ways to turn around and upsell what you've been working on, I would say, for sure.
Yeah, but your example, I just went, whoa, yeah, insane, double jump tech demo, new age technology.
Not the best example, but kind of in down that line. Like I think Jackson's axe throwing is a perfect example of that. Like you wouldn't say that's really a full-fledged game, or actually maybe it is. I haven't seen it. But even if it was just, you could pick up an axe, throw it, it sticks to a board, and there's points. That is something that is a full implementation that you can show on your portfolio.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think also along those lines, actually related to the axe throwing thing, I find that to be one of our more interesting projects because it's not a game really. It's a single mechanic that Jackson fleshed the heck out of. There feels like there's a bit of a weight to the axe whenever like you toss it and like when you like spin it around. It does a thing. It's basically Thor's hammer, where like if you hold down the trigger but like you don't press like the grab button, it will kind of stick in the air and then spin around. And so you can just kind of like hold your hand out and like have the axe hover in the air before bringing it back to your hand. When it hits things, there's like different thud sounds for like how hard you hit things. So really whacking something will make a strong thud, whereas just like kind of lightly tapping it will make a small like clink. It's all just more polishing of this one mechanic that makes a really solid implementation. And for a designer, that is the perfect thing to show off because you're showing off how you designed this mechanic to be just basically flawless. Is there any more
Oh, any
questions?
more questions?
I was just gonna ask if there were any interview tips, like you're talking about like the whiteboard problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like do you remember any questions that you were asked when you were working at Amanji, or I mean being interviewed at Amanji?
Yeah, the whiteboard one is tough. Because at a let's see. I think generally what you can expect from the whiteboard problem is it's one single sort of like multi-step problem. Manji's is a little specific because for my internship application, at least, my whiteboard question was designing an endless runner, or designing really just specifically placing tracks for an endless runner. So yeah, as far as the exact questions to prepare for, I don't know if I can provide any examples. On the personality side, though, there were not in addition to like getting asked like some pretty generic questions. I got questions like had I ever taken oh, what's that class? I can't remember. It's the one where you do like vector math and stuff.
Okay.
Linear?
Yeah, linear algebra. There are some, yeah, right. There are some things that they're going to ask you there as well. So stuff like, yeah, relevant course experience. They're going to ask, are you familiar with how like a game engine works? So like, thankfully for me, I had taken Dr. Roberts' game engine foundation, so I was able to answer those questions just from my experience. So those are some things that you can probably also expect as well.
Okay.
Something I want to touch on, Joseph mentioned in the chat, like a whiteboard problem about reversing a string. There are, for at least computer science, I can't talk about any other majors. Interviews have like these shared problems across a lot of different jobs. I did interviews for, I think it was Blackbaud and Oracle, just like so I could try and get internships last summer before COVID happened. And my friend told me that these are probably going to be some things that you'll get interviewed by, just because she had done other interviews at other other computer science companies. Same questions. And if you look online, you can find them all. There's things like foobar. There's things like reversing a string. Yeah, Ben, have you heard of foobar?
Foobar, is that a website you're saying?
No, these are questions that are usually asked during computer science interviews.
I'm familiar with
shared.
the concept.
They're usually shared, and so I guess like my recommendation would be, yeah, FizzBuzz. Yeah, things about for loops. Just try and like do as many interviews as you can. If you're in computer science, go to the engineer fair career fair, engineering career fair. Look up some companies. I highly recommend looking at Blackpod because they are really great to interview with. I interviewed with them and they were just super chill. And if you get the position, they seem really cool. They're like a nonprofit that's in South Carolina. And they do some just really awesome things. And I think Josh Good even worked there, who works at Anji now. But yeah, anyways, go to these career fairs, get interviews with these people. They are happy to interview you if you talk to them at the career fair for a little bit. And then just kind of get a repertoire of interview skills by going to all of these interviews. They don't even have to be for jobs you like. You can turn them down if you are accepted the position. Just get familiar with interviewing, learn how you specifically interview, and kill it when you get to the interview that really matters. Let's see.
So Jack asks, is there any tip on like when it would be good to start looking for jobs? Like go look for jobs early and focus on smaller things, or build up a resume to help with the jobs later on? And I said, I feel like as myself, I feel like I would have been freshman and sophomore year to me were more about like really testing the water. It depends on like how much experience and like a goal you have. So for me, freshman and sophomore were like really testing the water and see where I really fit and trying to develop games. And I kind of wish I had picked like a solid path earlier to really kind of focus on a little bit more. So I would say like try picking some small games that you really, or like concepts you really want to focus on, and making it some tech demos out of that early on. And then junior year, you want to start gathering that data for where you want to look for internships and jobs, because that way you can start applying for your junior and then throughout the entire senior year. I wish I had gathered data earlier, because it really kind of sucks doing it on top of school in the middle of the year. So it's good to try to like gradually build your like job search network. And I meant to mention this, but like when you have these websites of things that you would maybe apply to, I've been told repeatedly, like you got to make a spreadsheet for yourself and throw all the information in there, and you have to like diligently look back to see if there's a new posting every now and then. And it's a lot of work. And it's good to start the train early, because I definitely didn't start the train early, and it really is awful if you don't start the train early. So I would say, yeah, work on the small projects and like having a general figuring out what your focus wants to be, and like gathering and setting yourself up to like really go hard later.
I think piggybacking off of that, specifically for computer science, I guess I'll give an anecdote to kind of like emphasize how early you can start. I have a friend who came to college with me, and she took 116 with me, and she took 216 with me. And that spring we took 216. That spring, she went to one of the career fair things, and she talked with Oracle. Oracle really liked her, did an interview with her, really liked her at the interview, gave her one of the programming assignments that I described before, like FizzBuzz, or yeah, and she did good in there. They hired her. So after her freshman year of college, she was working for Oracle as a co-op that following fall, which for Oracle is like a summer and a fall semester thing. So she had only just gotten through like the intermediate Java class, not C, not data structures, nothing like that, and already had an intern or a co-op with them. Then after the semester after that co-op, we had COVID, and she was like, hey, you want to bring me back? They brought her back. So she had second co-op. And I think just now she is in operating systems with me and Mitchell, which is typically taken like your junior year. And she's already worked with them twice. And she also has an internship landed with Wells Fargo because she has already worked with Oracle. So she doesn't know half the stuff that you learn in computer science. She has essentially like sophomore level understanding of computer science, and she's already gotten jobs. So it is possible. Like I kind of like always refer to her when I'm like talking about like how it's possible to get these positions. She's absolutely brilliant, so she absolutely deserves it. And maybe it's a special case. It definitely is a special case, but it's possible. So start as
It's
early as
definitely
you
an
want.
example.
Yeah, start as early as you want. She wasn't even looking for a job when she first went to it. She just did it, as I mentioned, to gain experience getting getting interviews, but she landed it. So
Yeah, that's one of those examples of like, don't shut the door on yourself. Like, have somebody else tell you no. You can do whatever you want, but like, and if it
Mhm.
works out, it works out. But just go for it.
yeah, as long as you don't
And that's
insult them, they're going to.
yeah,
It's not going to hurt you. You
and that's
insult
a
them in
hard
an
thing to
interview.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a well, not insulting. Like, don't insult. I mean, it's a hard thing to do of like going for it. Don't insult people because then you're really just gonna burn a lot of bridges. But I feel like everybody's a little bit of a perfectionist, so we all want to like get the perfect resume and gather like, all right, I'm ready. You want to feel ready, but I don't. From my experience, you're never gonna hit that point where you feel ready to just kind of apply to a job. You're always going to think there's always going to be somebody better than you, frankly. So like just go for it anyway. Like, take a chance on yourself and just go. Apply it as a job and keep working and developing yourself at the same time, and you can keep updating, and it's just an ever looping process.
Yeah. And also echoing what Jack just said, right now there's not a lot of internships out, there's not a lot of job positions out, and I can attest to this because I am someone trying to get a job in the middle of COVID. It's hard right now. Next year is going to be much easier. It sounds like the university is getting everything back to relatively normal. We will have our career fairs again. We will have our opportunities to find positions. Right now, you don't have to worry about too much. You have time. Even if you're graduating, you have time. No one
Frankly,
is expecting you to be perfect right now because we're in the middle of a freaking panoramic.
And that's true. Like, can of you always have time? Like, I think there's a lot of pressure to, get a job, like your dream job at like in the middle, your mid-20s or whatever, like right after college. But statistically, that doesn't happen for a lot of people, and that's just a harsh reality. Like, most people will switch careers. Some people will start their dream jobs at like 40, and that happens a lot in game developers too. Like, they'll just start working in the industry when they're 40, and you're like, oh, okay. Like, so
Yeah.
it's one of those things, I guess. Try not to be too stressed about it. And I know it's hard to not be stressed about not getting into the industry you want to get, but kind of life goes how it goes, and you do the best you can with the boat that you have. So I would say do what seems best for you, and it goes where it goes, and it works out.
Like Alberto just mentioned, Ian Fraser, if you went to that talk, he talked about how hard it was for him to get into the industry, and now he's creative director at EA Motive. That's a pretty gigantic leap. So
Exactly.
it's just
He had a
patient.
job at like Walmart, a Walmart factory for a bit.
Yep. Yeah, Ben, you got to pay the cat tax.
How do I pay the cat tax?
You have to show the
Cat
cat's
tax?
face.
Oh.
He ran away.
Go get him.
And
Well, just a manning cat.
You're a badass.
Either that or do a simple VGDC assignment for us.
Oh,
This is so
the
bad.
big
How do I
one.
spotlight that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go.
Being
Thank
best
you.
behavior, Dave.
If only we could see the cats now.
Dave-
There we
Yeah.
go.
Look at the
It
face.
looks
Cat's
so
like,
excited
why?
to be here.
Oh my god, the face.
I'm in love.
That's such a cute. Oh, it's such a cute
Ben, can we turn
cat.
this into an emoji on the Discord?
Dude, you have my permission because this is
All right.
adorable.
We're gonna have to grab some frames from the recording.
I'm grabbing this right now.
Oh yeah. Hold on.
We're making our own personal pop cat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
God. All right. Thank you,
Love
Ben.
Thank
The
you
tax
so
has been
much.
paid.
Mascot. I thought Bippy was the mascot.
Also, nice lion pin. You can see it on your hat much
Oh,
easier.
thank you. What's your cat's
Oh
name?
my god, I love how many of these we've gotten.
What's
What is your cat's name?
My cat's name is Dave Meowthews.
already a winner.
Oh my god.
That's amazing.
Oh my
Thank
god.
you. It means a lot to me that people still know Dave Matthews.
Have you purchased like tiny instruments for your cat? Like for it to carry around or something?
It's not
Lucky.
I haven't
Mustard.
thought to try that, but that's not a bad idea.
I'll be honest, the only reason I know Dave Matthews is because I just finished watching Community.
His real fans call him Dave.
Yeah.
God, I love Community. Yeah.
The server is gonna become nothing but Ben and his cat.
It's
Mhm.
it's
It's
special.
not.
We'll have a
it's not the
contest to see
attention
which
he
cat
deserves.
emoji is the best.
Oh yeah.
Wait, why don't we have a Zoom cat channel yet on Discord?
Why don't we have
Pets
a pets channel?
The pets of
We should have a
VGDC.
pets
That would be a
That's a
good
fair
one.
point. Should
Quidditch
Would
has
you
one.
like
It's
to come back?
fantastic. I've been in the pets
I
channel
think
in
it was
Quidditch like
suggested
5
at one
times.
point. It was the animals channel was suggested at one point, and I think it was like, I don't think we have enough people for that. But I guess it doesn't matter.
This must have been before last semester because
Yeah, it was at the
I don't
beginning
know
of
what
it was at the beginning of the Discord.
all right.
Yeah.
We'll change
Why
that.
are we hesitant to add channels? It's free and we can always unsubscribe. No, I mean,
I still have so many pictures from the kittens I was fostering.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
random. You mentioned the word channel. I convinced one of my friends to subscribe to the VGDC YouTube with 5 accounts, so we went up.
Oh.
Yes.
Where are we at
We'll
now?
get that custom URL in no time.
Thank you. What are we at?
We're at 76. Did we go down?
Oh, great. Did we?
I don't know. So 76 sounds about right.
yeah, you definitely
my
need
God,
the custom
Josh
URL because
here.
if you search VGDC on YouTube, you get video game
Period.
director's cuts first.
Yeah, we're very hard to search for.
Yeah.
You gotta do VGDC at NCSU.
Yeah.
You have to put NCSU.
Or like your AR game, I searched through pages, it didn't show up, so I had to use the URL.
Yeah, I'm waiting for
What if we have
Google.
enough ratings?
Well, okay, that's actually a really good question because I think now it pops up because now when I search it on the Google Play Store, it pops up. So maybe it's better. Like if you search Clone Wars tabletop on an Android device, maybe.
We'll find out here. Hold on.
I was gonna say, didn't you review it though? So maybe no, it does pop up. Let's go. It's got the little new tag too.
It pops up, but I
Yay.
haven't seen any of the reviews. They're not popping up on this.
I saw like a couple.
Maybe
I
it
see
takes
them-
like 2 weeks to process everything.
That
I
would
see
make
them
a lot
on
of
like the
sense, actually.
web page for Google Play, but not in the app.
Yep, same here. Maybe it's like a 2-week thing. I don't know. I'm keeping my eye on it.
I was gonna say
But
mine
it's-
doesn't show up, but that's because it's not compatible, so it won't show up anyway.
Yeah. Get a new phone, Alberto. Purely so you can play Clone Wars, not so you can access your banking.
Maybe in a month or two when I get my paycheck, right? Full time, yeah. woohoo.
Hey, Alberto got a job. Everyone, round of applause.
Oh yeah, Atlanta. Good
Yay!
job.
Yeah. I guess I should say if there's no more questions, the meeting is basically over. Now we'll probably just shitpost for a little bit.